My name is Mercia Dukugo Amina. I manage the team at Fiduciary Services Limited, and it's a pleasure to have everyone join us today as we discuss the trends and dynamics that are shaping the lives and legacies of affluent and high net worth individuals. We have a power-packed team of speakers that are going to dissect most of the issues with respect to the trends and dynamics. And we look forward to an engaging conversation with them. We trust that you would also be able to benefit from their wealth of knowledge and experience, and that at the end of the day, we would be able to understand what the issues are around salient issues that affect families, that affect affluent and also affect their wealth as well. I'm going to quickly introduce Theresa Ramos. Theresa is actually joining us from the Philippines. She's with us from the Philippines. So it's such a pleasure to have her. And if you know the firm that Theresa is with, then you will understand what I'm saying. They are such a diverse and very extensive family wealth advisory firm operating out of Asia. So Theresa, is a pleasure to have you. So Theresa is the senior consultant and trainer at Premier Family Business Consulting. She's a certified consultant by the Family Firm Institute, Boston, USA, and Family Wealth and Family Business Advising. She has served more than 80 plus Filipino family business across the Philippines as well as abroad. Aside from designing modules that facilitate groups in family dynamic sessions, in these sections, she runs family programs such as the family culture building and family constitution retreat. So we're going to be learning a lot from Theresa and her wealth of experience. Thank you, Theresa, for making our time to be with us. So we start it off. And the number one question is, in our own opening remarks, in our own, based on our knowledge, based on the experiences we've had with families, this is the 8th month of the year. So we've had 2023 run up for 7 months, and we are now in the 8th, almost getting to the middle of the month as well. So what has been the trends and the dynamics in our own practice that we see that is shaping the lives and the legacies of affluent and high net worth individuals? So Theresa, let us hear. So what are the trends and dynamics in family? So this is family dynamics, talking about family dynamics. So what are the issues? In your practice, the last couple of months, what has been the experiences that you've had so far and you've had to navigate around?
Yeah. Thank you for your introduction, Mercy. And talking about salient issues concerning family dynamics, based on the families that I've journeyed with, there are basically about 4 of these salient issues. One, which is very typical, is the generation gap of the now or the senior gen and the next gen, who may be a millennial or a Gen Z. And this generation gap is, as you all know, is a difference in values, beliefs, attitudes between one generation to the other. And you can see this between parents, children, grandchildren, and their grandparents. And this difference results to conflicting interests, needs, and communication gap. For example, as simple as the concept of hardworking can cause frustration stemming from this generation gap. Because for senior generation, typically hard work would mean coming to the office early, working late, putting in the hours. But for the younger generation, hard work may look different. They may mean they're working smart and so on. So we see this a very typical friction between the senior and the younger gen, this generation gap. Another one, that's very typical family dynamics issue among families of wealth would be the difficulty of integration of in-laws into the family. Integration meaning the process of an in-law imbibing and sharing the common values and beliefs of the family without losing their own. And sometimes this can be a tricky process, especially at the beginning of the relationship, and there's, around acceptance of a would-be spouse. And I think it's also very a common issue. This marital difficulties, having high conflict marriage can greatly affect all members of the family and spill over the business and the ownership systems. And it's also common rivalry between siblings of the parent, or even rivalry between parent and child can also become a challenging dynamics. So I'm saying that these are typical family dynamics. They're not impossible to overcome, but these are also not very unique. Being families, being owners, having multiple systems in a family of wealth. So these things can happen.
Yeah, very true, very correct, Theresa. We all know that yeah, so conflict is something that we would have as individuals, but when you now bring in wealth, when there is assets, you know that's like triple of the conflict. So the tendencies for there to be conflict, for there to be rivalry, and just all the challenges you would have when you add wealth, when you add money into the equation. And within families who are largely emotional systems, you just know that just skyrockets into something else if not properly managed. So that's really what we are going to x-ray today and speak to. So Theresa, we're going to talk about family dynamics. We started the conversation talking about what are the trends that we see in family. I know you mentioned issues around in-laws, the generational gap, the older generation not understanding the younger ones not understanding what the whole noise is about, that the older ones keep going on and on about. We also talked about rivalry, even rivalries between parents and children, and these are real issues. So when we talk about family dynamics, what really are we talking about that should be of concern to families of wealth?
Yeah, in family science, there are two types of family dynamics, and I think this is very applicable and important for families of wealth to sort of understand so that they can navigate through these family dynamics. The first one is what we call an optimal functional family dynamics. So that meaning the family is able to meet the demands and tasks required for every life stage of the family. So by life stages, we mean from being a couple to building a family, raising children, raising teens, to launching young adults in the family, to being an empty nester, passing the baton, the whole family life cycle. And the family's capacity to meet the demands and tasks is called an optimal family functioning. So it reminded me when Marta was talking about diminished capacities of patriarch and matriarch, that might be one of the important family tasks in the family life stage of passing the baton, retirement of parents, caring for aging parents. And it's important that families have the tools in order to navigate optimally the functioning of their family. Another type of family dynamics would be the opposite of the optimal functioning, which is a functioning which is unable to meet the demands and thus has a problematic functioning. And I would have to say that family dynamics, in my experience, determine the sustainability and even the longevity of the financial or even emotional wealth of a family in business or a family of wealth across their many generations. And I say this because I remember I did this research, a case study research of 4 long-lived families in the Philippines, um, and long-lived families meaning they're able to pass on their wealth to the third, fourth, fifth generation, and they still continue to decide to own together, to work together. What I found in these long-lived families of wealth is that they have the characteristics of optimal family functioning over time. So this means that they have a more balanced cohesion, where they're able to have policies and systems to maintain a delicate balance of supporting individual interests and pursuing common family goals. And they also have the characteristics of a balanced flexibility, where these long-lived families of wealth are adaptable to leadership changes. If in the example given a while ago, if a patriarch or a matriarch suddenly has diminished executive functioning, then the family is able to adapt to that leadership change and structure to accommodate the changing needs of the family. And in this case study, I saw that these long-lived family firms are able to navigate, foster their emotional bond across their generation. At the same time, they have the capacity to change over the years, and they also have characteristics of positive communication skills and family satisfaction that I believe these dimensions of the family help them negotiate relationships and transitions over time. And of course, I would with this I would theorize. Although I was not able to talk to families who end up in therapy or problematic functioning, but I would theorize that the opposite of a optimally functioning family would be families who are perhaps disconnected and not able to recover and repair that rupture, or families who may be enmeshed and there's over dependency and unable to recover and heal from that rupture or problematic functioning. So in a sense, these are the family dynamics that I see affecting families of wealth.
Yeah, so you touched on something that is very significant, and that's why we're having this conversation. It's about communication. And I think that's really central to what you do. That's how I got to meet you as well. So so how do you help families? Because what anyone would want, we would not want we will not want the Logan family situation. So if you watch Succession, you understand the HBO drama Succession. You would understand how toxic. I mean, all what you can say you don't want your family to portray. You saw it in the Logan Raw family. So what I'm trying to say is, how do you prepare your family to be in such a healthy state that
Sure.
with the wealth that you've struggled for, with the wealth that you've worked your socks off, it doesn't just filter away, and the rift and the rivalry doesn't just pull everyone apart. That because we know that when the patriarch and the matriarch are alive, they have a tendency of calling everybody to order. But once they are no longer there to call you to order, how do you have sustainable, functioning, optimal families? What are the tools? What are the ways in which families can ensure that optimally, individually, they are their own person, but collectively, they are also championing the legacies of their patriarch and their matriarchs?
Right. Ideally, the patriarch and the matriarch would be the glue that will influence family members to take part in giving an effort, to work together, to work things out. So ideally, a process with a family whose matriarch or patriarch is still around would be much, much more beneficial and helpful. However, I've also journeyed with families where the matriarch and the patriarch or the senior gen is no longer there, but regardless, the family decided to come together and find ways. So in the work that I do with families together with my team, we usually, when it comes to family dynamics, we usually do two processes. And if two processes, that's very helpful to make the discussion or the conversation around ownership and leadership transition more successful, you'd say. So the first is guided discovery of individual family members to understand their individual aspirations. Of course, this assumes that there is a third party consultant or professional who journeys with the family in this process. So the goal in this guided discovery of individual family members, a one-on-one conversation, is the goal is for the individual to come to an appreciation or even an expression, an appreciation of what they have, and also a expression of whatever dissatisfaction or need that they'd like answered or met in the family, and at the same time to in their own ways realize how they can proactively and become a solution to the perceived problem. So basically, that's a guided discovery. And the second process is a family process, a guided family process where there is a processing of the shared goals of the family, their purpose of why they're working together, they continue to own together, and also a processing of their values. And this is essential with a third party professional because it helps that there is somebody who can facilitate the family in articulating why they want to stay together, why they want to work together and own together. In addition to the family's core ideologies, which I mentioned, values, purpose, vision, it's also, I've seen work very well for families to have a shared learning environment where from grandparents to grandchildren to parents to cousins learn together basic effective communication skills. Now, of course, they can come together if they have a common goal. In the beginning, they would have their self-interest, like, okay, I want to attend this because I have an interest in my dividends and I want to work this out. So there are differing self-interests that would motivate individual family members to attending family learning sessions. But what happens is that I've seen this to be powerful because the family learns together. They assess together, for example, their communication levels. They reflect how difficult it is to implement what they need to do, and this seems to make family members soften to each other and have more it's like an atmosphere of wanting to work things out, and that especially works in Asian families that I've worked with. But besides communication strategies, there's also shared learning shared learning on topics on conflict resolution strategies, just giving them an awareness, just giving them the tools. So in my firm, in Premier, we champion this process, and this process is called the family culture building, where we do this team building things with the family with these specific goals.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think you kind of touched on what the fundamental key points should be. Shared purpose. There has to be a shared purpose. The values have to be well defined and understood. The vision as well. And very intriguing, shared learning. I'm like, okay, fantastic. Shared learning. That is a very good one. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of pushbacks as regards what would I want to learn with my grandpa and
Yeah.
all that as a teen. But yeah, I do understand that if you do work with the right advisors, you'll be able to find a blend, and yeah, and that would work. I'm going to ask you now that when we talk about, let's talk about hats and rooms. I know that a lot of people on the calls might not understand what hats and rooms are, but when it comes to family dynamics and how people perceive you, even yeah. So let's not, so within the family, how people perceive you, and what you and how you want to get your message across. Understanding the concept of hats and rooms is very important. So could you introduce us to hearts and rooms and what families could do or what advisors could do to help families better communicate so that they could stay together and continue the legacies of their patriarch or their matriarch?
Yeah, sure. So what's unique about families of wealth or a family in business is that they're composed of multiple rooms or systems, such as the ownership room, the boardroom, the operating business room, and the family room. And each room or system has different stages and needs. For example, in the ownership room, the stages are you have the founder offspring partnership, and that will transition soon to sibling partnership, and that will also transition to cousin consortium. So you can just imagine that in every transition of the specific ownership room, there's a lot of negotiation in terms of relationship, in terms of what's fair, and how we move forward. In the family room, there is the stage of raising children. I've mentioned this, passing the baton stage. And in the business room, you have in the first stage, you have the controlling founder, and then transitioning to entering the family business, where the younger generation starts to be active in the management of the wealth or in the operation of the business. And then finally, the last stage in the business room would be working together, where generally 3 generations are present working together in managing the wealth or managing the business. So in each stage, the family's capacity for I find that in each stage, the family's capacity for effective communication would help each room or system transition successfully to the next stage. Um, a transparent communication, an open communication, a capacity for active listening, where, as you said, Mercy, you have a safe space where you don't get shut down for when you share what you think, and a capacity also to provide feedback, which may be a brutal fact. For example, how do you say that kindly in a tone that is acceptable and where the message is relayed properly? So this is now a challenge for families to invest in their communication process, because good communication can never be substituted when it comes to navigating stages and transition in every room. And depending on the room or system that you belong in, you will also have families of wealth, families in business will also have a corresponding role or hat. So if
Hats,
you're a
yeah.
founder, yeah. So if you're a founder, you have multiple roles or hats. You're the CEO in the business system. At the same time, you're the father or the mother in a family system, or a spouse to your husband or wife, and a majority owner. That's another role in the ownership system, and even a chairman of the board in the boardroom. So and many times your other family members can also be playing multiple roles. So many times it can get tricky. And it gets tricky when family members playing different roles are not clear of their expectations, goals, and intentions in the role or in the hat that they have in a particular situation. So I remember this is a common story, but well, one of the clients, I have permission to share. One of our clients wanted to fire his son for not for consistently not meeting the quota. So he said, son, as the CEO, I say you're really doing not a good job in what you promised you're going to provide. But as your father, I can help you by asking you, what kind of support do you need? So that helps family members become clear of, I'm communicating this because this is the intention as a CEO, which is competence, performance-based. And now I'm shifting hats, I'm communicating this as a family member where I normally provide unconditional positive regard to family members. So so communicating based on interests and goals of that role is very helpful in these differing roles. And that it's also good for families to practice transparency of communication in terms of information. So if you're a shareholder, but not a board or a member of the family council, it helps that information is available, you know, at times when you need them. And the process of decision making is also clear, that information is clear. So a sense of justice is established. And also, of course, clarity of the information that's laid out there. I think these help families of wealth and families in business navigate the differing paths and also rooms that there are in these families.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're pretty much running out of time, but you mentioned something that I wanted us to speak a bit more on, and that's related to governance. I mean, talking about the roles that family or the structures in which families can come in and be able to have very open conversations, just to help with the conflicts and all the issues that could come up when you do have when communications is not flowing. So what are the governance structures that you could put in place as a family that ensures that family members do get, because there are times when people, I mean, we have that where you have the patriarch or the matriarch playing on other, maybe inadvertently they are doing that, maybe they're trying to get a reaction, or they are, but those are not the optimal, those don't drive optimal systems where you have harmony. What happens is that what you're doing, you're breeding a lot of toxicity within the family itself. And it's something that if you're not there tomorrow, that would become a hydra-headed issue that you'll not be able to, you won't even be around to be able to manage. So what governance structures can you put in place as a family of wealth to ensure that the communication is continuous, even if you have differing interests and differing opinions? There is that level of respect and courtesy that we are called ourselves, and there is that place that we can all come in, or that or a way in which we can all say we are all carried along, even if I'm not actively participating, but I still understand that I am part of this family, and I'm also being taken very much into contention. So what are the governance structures that families of wealth could be looking at?
Yes, you're right, Mercy. In terms of the differing roles and systems or rooms in the family business or in families of wealth, there is a need for a mechanism for governance for each room. So usually when we journey with families, we look at what's already currently there so that we don't have to deal a lot with resistance. We can help the family continue what they're already doing and find some variations and identify when they want to level up. So with that being said, one of the governance systems in a family of wealth would focus on the family welfare, the family goals, individual family members, and this is the family council. Many times families of wealth have an informal family council, although they may not have called it like that in the same way that we consultants would call it, but informally they're already they have a group that functions like a family council. So we continue with that, and we put structure, we put policies even before there is a need. Another governance, a common governance surrounding the business is the board of directors. So their role is to make sure that they have the best interests of the shareholders, that they're able to create a direction for the operation. Another one would be the ownership group, because not everybody in the ownership group have the chance or the interest to sit in the board level. So these are typical governance structures where each room has a governance structure to look at their welfare and to ensure that the needs and intentions are met in the family of wealth or in a family business system. That is to say that those are not the only governance structures. It depends on families. I have journeyed with almost 100 members, family members. And for this particular type in a big family, they do not only have a family council, they also have a family assembly. So, so for them, it makes sense that there is a distinction between the family council who serves as a family leadership elder type, while the family assembly is the rest of the family who have the qualifications to become members of the family and perhaps also own. Some families I've journeyed with, it also makes sense that they have a next generation committee. So that is another governance level where the next generation have a voice, and they have and they can communicate through that to their different systems, to the board, to the ownership group, and even to the family.
Thank you. So Theresa, 1 minute
right
to round up. Yes.
Yep. Okay. So I have to say that families in business, families of wealth, are unique because of the complexity, and at the same time, because of that, conflict is inevitable. So I'm saying this to also create an appreciation of the need to invest in family strategy, because many times as business owners or entrepreneurs, we give a lot of investment into business strategy, but not so much with family strategy. And so I've always advocated for strengthening the family business through deepening the family connections. So and as I know I've talked about optimal family functioning and problematic family functioning. And I have to say, as a disclaimer, that not all families are always perfectly optimal, right? I have just to get it out there that families navigate naturally. We navigate our own families. We navigate between problematic functioning to recovery to make us optimal functioning. And that's the hope, because families who may have problems, who may have issues, can find relief and overcome and these conflicts and these challenges when the family is able to find ways to recover from these challenges and issues. It thrusts them into a different level, more optimal family functioning. So
thank you. Awesome, Theresa. Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this panel. I know that we haven't really gone nitty-gritty into the issues. There's a lot more conversations that need to go on. There's a lot more learning. There's a lot more understanding that needs to go on. But at least today we have done something to push the needle further. So I'm really happy to have had the conversation with us. And yeah, so thank you so much for your time. And we do hope that when we call on you next time, you would be glad to come join us and really share with us your expertise and your knowledge that has been at play from the conversation up until now. So thank you so much. And for everyone that is also with us, it's also critical that we work with the right advisors. You cannot overemphasize it. There's a need to work with the right advisors. When you work with the right advisors, the right firms, the issues that you should be aware of, those things that you should take cognizance of, they would naturally be part of what would be addressed by the advisors. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a delight to have this session. It's been a delight to speak through the trends and dynamics that are shaping the lives and legacies of affluent and high net worth individuals. Over the course of the webinar, we've x-rayed the issues of family dynamics. We've come to understand what they are, and how we could work around with the right advisors to be able to ensure that the issues that would arise, whether with the mental incapacity, diminished capacity, or declining capacity of anyone in the family, can be appropriately taken care of, as well as how we can preserve our digital assets. We've also discussed that as well. And we looked extensively into philanthropy and x-rayed how next gens, rising generations are connecting with philanthropy, African philanthropy, what are the things that drive us, as well as from an Islamic perspective as well, sustainability and philanthropy, and how we can better connect with our community, knowing fully well that we have to start with purpose. We have to articulate our purpose as a family. We have to understand what our wealth is to be used for, and we have to make sure that at the end of the day, the legacies that we are leaving, they are sustainable, and they are the ones that the rising gen will be happy to take into the future, and ensure that at the end of the day, we have multi-generational, thriving, and harmonious families. So it's been a pleasure having everyone here. We look forward to the next edition of our webinars. And on a final note, we say thank you to everyone. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with everyone. So till next time, thank you, everyone, and bye-bye for now.